Agradeceros que estéis aquí. Para nosotros es un evento muy importante y lo queríamos compartir con vosotros. Quería agradecer, si me permitéis, especialmente citar a los representantes que nos acompañan de Barco y Dolby y a mis colegas que vienen de Francia y de Bélgica. Como sabéis, el cine pues vive una situación complicada, no es nada nuevo. Vemos que la tecnología cambia muy rápido. Nuestros clientes tienen ya en casa televisiones 3D, 4K y la experiencia es lo que cuenta. Entonces sabéis que Kinépolis desde siempre ha trabajado porque la experiencia sea realmente única. Este año lanzamos una campaña, os recuerdo, en el que el claim es reinventamos el cine y creemos que esa es la cuestión. La tecnología es lo que nos va a permitir realmente mantener esta promesa. Y os queríamos invitar hoy para compartir el último paso que hemos dado, la proyección láser y el sonido Dolby. Entonces, mucho mejor que yo lo va a presentar Bob Claeys, que nos acompaña. Bob es el director de I+D a nivel internacional de Kinépolis y además un apasionado de las tecnologías. Estoy encantada de presentarlo y que él nos introduzca en el mundo de Ultra. Bienvenido, Bob.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. Welcome here in Kinepolis, Madrid.
Bob, discúlpame, perdona, si necesitáis una pequeña información práctica se me ha olvidado. Los casquitos que necesitáis, al ponerlos se conectan automáticamente y solo hay una rueda para el volumen, ¿vale? Cualquier cuestión.
A todos.
We are very excited at Kinepolis to show you today something revolutionary new. We have a world record here. We're introducing a new technology, and we're doing this in 4 sites. We have installed a Kinepolis Laser Ultra theater in Spain, here in Madrid, in this theater. We've done so in France, in London, and 2 in Belgium, 1 in Antwerp and 1 in Brussels. I can't wait to show you all the goodies, to make you listen to the beautiful sound, look at the beautiful images. What you're looking at now is not yet the picture you will see with our special projector. But maybe before we go into all that new technology, it's always nice when you introduce new technology to have a look back and see where do we come from. And I've put up here a picture of Kinepolis Brussels. Kinepolis Brussels was the first megaplex that we built. It was in Belgium, in Brussels. We built it in 1989, and it was a world record at that time. It was the biggest megaplex in the world, only to be beaten later by this complex here, Kinepolis Madrid, which is bigger and still holds the title of biggest cinema in the world. But when we built in 1989 this complex, people were very impressed, 25 screens, but they were mostly impressed by our screens. And our screens are very important to us. When we developed in 1989 Kinepolis Brussels, we developed a new kind of multiplex, and we gave all our primary attention to the screens. We took a blank sheet of paper and we drew the perfect cinemascope screen. And then we started to build everything around it, but we made sure that our screen went from one wall to the other wall and from the ceiling to the floor. That is very important to us from a geometric point of view. We want our customers to have the best possible dream experience. Everything that's happening up there on the screen has to be as intense as possible. So we paid a lot of attention to our screens, but then we built everything around it. We found very luxurious seats, double armchairs. We exaggerated the slopes in the theater, the stadium seating. We wanted to be sure that even if you had a basketball player sitting in front of you, you could still watch the movie and enjoy without being bothered by that. So we put exaggerated stadium seating. We gave much more legroom. So a new concept of theater was born, and we were very proud of that. We worked at practically everything, even ventilation and heating. We understood that if you build a technically perfect theater, you don't want to hear ventilation. So we oversized the ventilation, the conducts. Everything was built much bigger than is necessary so that you would not hear the displacement of the air, so that you can really enjoy your movie in total silence. We worked very, very hard on acoustics. If I clap my hand, this theater is for the size. This is a huge theater, and you practically don't hear a lot of echo or reverb. That's something we worked very hard on. We treated the walls, the ceiling, so that sound is absorbed, because that's the way it sounds in the mixing studio, where a director creates the dream, where he creates his sound. He has that same acoustic in the mixing studio, so we wanted to be sure to reproduce that same feeling, so that when you listen to a movie, here you hear it exactly the way the director hears it when he's actually mixing the movie. If you ever wondered what's behind the screen, well, this was in '89 behind the screen. You can see that we built everywhere the famous THX wall. THX wall that is also absorptive material, so that the high frequencies coming from the speakers, and you can see very big trumpets, they push out a very high number of high frequencies, and we perforate the screen. The screen has like millions of little holes to have the high frequencies coming through. But of course, there where there are no holes, the high frequencies bounce back, and if we don't absorb it, they would come back once again, and the sound would once again be not realistic. So we worked very hard in getting everything optimal. In '89, when we built Brussels, we were amongst the first to have all our theaters THX certified. THX, as you know, was the company at that time by George Lucas. George was very frustrated because he spent a lot of work in studios getting a perfect image, getting a perfect sound, then to discover when he comes in a theater that the acoustics were very bad, that the visibility was very bad, very poor light on the screen. So he was disappointed in that. So he wrote down some norms to what a good cinema theater should correspond, and we followed all of that. And a lot of theater chains, they just did their one big theater and they made that THX. We found it always very important that whether you go to the smallest theater in this multiplex we have 25 screens, whether you go to the smallest or the biggest, everything is identical. All the quality is as good as it is. So that also was very special because we were the only ones to have all theaters THX certified. Now, in 1989, when we opened Brussels, of course, we were still working with this beautiful technology. We were still showing films in 35 millimeter, which was beautiful. It was a beautiful technology that hadn't really evolved in 100 years. We were literally pulling 24 times per second a film through a projector, a mechanical process, which was beautiful. It gave us the very distinctive sound of the projector, which sometimes we miss now up there in the booth because everything is digital. But so in those days, everything was still 35 millimeter or 70 millimeter, and that did have some drawbacks. Quality of the film degraded when we showed, because it's a mechanical process. The film was torn through the projector, so we got dust built up, we got lines. So if you didn't see the film on the first day and you saw it, let's say 3 weeks later, you could have had maybe a lesser experience. That frustrated us. But okay, that was the technology at that time. At that time we had Dolby 5.1, or even maybe in '89 we had Dolby 4.1. What this means was, as I showed you in the picture what's behind the screen, we had like 5 channels in the theater. So you had a left channel, a center channel, and a right channel. And then you had the surround speakers on the right side and the surround speakers on the left side. In '89 we just had one set of surround speakers. So all these speakers hanging in the theater made exactly the same sound. Now what a sound mixer could do, he could play around with these channels. So if you're looking at a movie and you were seeing a train that was going from left to right, the sound mixer could actually mix the sound first coming from the left channel, and then the sound would go to the center channel, and then the sound would go to the right channel. So there was already an impression that the sound was following the image. Or when you were looking at a scene where an airplane was coming towards you, you could hear the sound coming out of the center speaker, and then when the airplane went over you, the sound was mixed towards the surround speakers. So we already had some depth in the sound, but it was still all very basic. What you see here is one of our technicians. Kinepolis is a little bit different from the majority of cinema exhibitors because we are so passionate about technology. We want to control the technology ourselves. So we created very soon our own company that does cinema technology. And we actually do all the installment of all our technical equipment ourselves. So when, for instance, in '89 we built Brussels, well, we buy the projectors, let's say, from Cinemeccanica in Italy, but we buy them naked. All the wiring, all the electronics, we built them ourselves and we modify because we really want to be hands-on with technology. We find that very important. So this gave us a little special position towards a lot of cinema technology manufacturers. They discovered, these Kinepolis guys, they don't just only know how to make great popcorn and how to make sure that there's a lot of people in their theaters, but they also know about technology. And so more and more we were sometimes the first to hear about new technologies and get in contact with them. And we actually do a lot of beta testing behind the screens. Nobody knows, but these projector manufacturers give us new prototypes and we try it, and we can give them valuable feedback on what's good, what's no good. So that gives us a little bit of a special relationship. And all this we do because we want to get the best possible. We want the customers to dream as intense as possible the dream that's taking place on the screen. That's very important for us. Now, since '89, when we opened Brussels, a lot of technology has evolved. We have seen, for instance, I personally believe that was a very big step. We saw the introduction, finally, of digital sound in the theater. All of a sudden, there is a whole lot of manufacturers that invent their specific system of digital sound. You had, for instance, DTS. DTS came with, I remember Jurassic Park, for instance, came with DTS. Then they gave us a compact disc that we had to play with a special machine. The compact disc was then synchronized with the print, the 35mm print. Great sound. You had Dolby with SRD, where they printed the digital information between the holes in the 35mm print. This is digital information, so that was optically read out. Great sound. You had Sony, who had its own system that also worked on another way. So it was a bit hard for us because it was a little bit like in the time of the video world when you had Betamax, VHS, Video 2000, all different kinds, and everybody was hoping we have to win the battle. And a lot of cinema exhibitors waited to see, okay, who's going to win and we'll get that one. We never waited because we love technology, and when we know that something gets better, we wanted it. So this is a picture of one of the projectors under here, but you had a huge build-up of equipment on the projector because we had to read all these different sound formats. Here you have 70mm magnetic sound, you have DTS sound reader, SRD Dolby sound reader, Dolby SDDS sound reader. We had to have we had to have everything. So our projectors, the operators called them the Christmas trees because they were bigger and bigger. It was very impressive. But the sound was amazing. Finally, we could go much lower in frequency, much higher in frequency. We had much more dynamics. So we could, when it was a silent scene in the film, it was actually totally silent in the theater. And of course, the spectacular effects were very loud. Also, the channel separation was much better. I told you when the train was driving from left to right, well, you would when it was still on 35mm optical sound, you would still hear a little bit. When the train was on the left, you would still hear a little bit of the train by the right speaker. Channel separation wasn't so good. So digital sound solved all that. But then came another giant revolution. We had the introduction of DLP, an American chip builder, Texas Instruments, develops a technology they call DLP, digital light processing. Now, Texas Instruments is a chip builder, so they built a chip. Now, this chip is only big like this, it's very small, and actually it consists, they call it a digital micro mirror device. So it's a little machine that contains right here over almost 2 million little mirrors. These mirrors, if we blow up the image here, you can see 2 of those mirrors. There's 2 million of these mirrors on one chip. These mirrors can change position. They can pivot. So the computer can decide for every single of those 2 million mirrors whether it should be in this position or in that position. It can click. Now, by doing that, if we shine a light onto these mirrors, if we put the mirror in this position, the on position, it will reflect its light towards the screen. If we put it in the other position, we get a black dot, there's no light. So this was a revolutionary technology that could enable us to create 2 million points, dots of light on this screen. We could build an image just like this. The screen you're looking now at, we're showing you a 2K resolution, 2 million pixels that are made out of 2 million of these mirrors. Now, we only have black and white yet. So what we now can do with these mirrors, we can also have them oscillate, move at a certain speed. And that way we can create gray values. The faster, the more white the image will be. The slower, the more black the image will be. So we can create gray scales on this image. Now, what happens in a digital projector is we have a light source, a lamp that gives out a beam of white light, and we feed this beam of white light into a prism. Now, the prism, as we all know from our lessons in school, it takes out the 3 primary colors, red, blue, and green. And every of these colors are fed to one of these chips. So there is 3 of these chips in every projector. The image we're now looking at is being built up by a white beam going to a prisma, going onto 3 of these chips, and these create 2 million points. If you would go very close to the screen, you will see very small little dots. This was revolutionary because finally we had no more shaking. You have to understand that when we were showing 35mm, we were blowing up a picture that's only 35mm big on a projector up there in the booth, and this projector being a mechanical device, it was shaking. So the image on your screen was moving and it was shaking. We could not help that. With this technology, no more shake. A perfectly stable image, beautiful colors, no more degradation of the picture, because now we receive no more a print, a physical print. We get a little box with a hard disk, and all the digital information is on the hard disk, and we play it out, and whether we play it for the first time or the 100 or the 1000th time, the quality is going to be exactly the same. So we were very, very happy when digital cinema arrived, and the picture I'm showing you here, Texas Instruments built in 1999 30 prototype projectors, and Kinepolis bought 2. We had one here in Kinepolis Madrid, and we had one in Kinepolis Brussels. So Kinepolis customers were amongst the first in the world to discover digital image on the big screen, something we were very proud of. Now, with the coming of digital projection, something else came up, another big revolution, 3D. Hey, wait a minute, we had seen that in the past. We'd seen that in the 50s, we'd seen that in the 70s, Remember, everybody put on a little carton glass with a red plastic and a blue plastic, and all of a sudden, the monsters come out of the screen. It was great. It was a huge success. Cinemas were packed with people. But it didn't last very long because we had a little problem. The problem was headache. People were watching these movies in 3D and they were going out and saying, oh my God, I've got a headache. And so that was a bit of a problem. And to explain that, I need to explain very briefly how 3D works. Basically what we do is with 3D projection, we trick the brain, we fool the brain. And how does it work? Actually, it's quite simple. We have two eyes, a right eye and a left eye. And there's like 6 centimeters of difference between the two. Now, when we look at something, when I'm looking at my finger, and my finger is far away, probably what I'll be seeing with my right eye will be, the finger will be more or less the same as what I'm seeing with my left eye. However, when I'm bringing this finger a lot closer, first of all, I'm going to look very silly because my eyes will be in a very strange position. But what I'm seeing with my right eye is going to be quite different than what I'm seeing with my left eye. Our brain takes the information of the two eyes, and we grew up as babies and everything, and we got experience with that. Whoa, if the information is very much different, it's going to hit me, it's going to hurt. Be careful. So we got used to that, and in cinema we do exactly the same thing. We film images with 2 projectors that have a little bit of distance between them. I'm taking now the example with normal film, where we film with a camera. There's also computer animation, but just to keep it simple, we'll talk about the camera. So there is a double camera. We're filming action with 2 cameras, and both film streams are shown on the image at the exact same time. Now, this results in absolute chaos. You cannot look at that. That's where the glasses come in. So what happens with the glasses is, the glasses make sure that the 2 picture streams, the left stream and the right stream, are filtered to the correct eye. So when you put on your blue and red glasses, you could only see with the right eye the image stream for the left eye and vice versa. And this way we simulate this 3D effect that you have with your own eyes, and you get the illusion that an object is really coming towards you. Now, in the older days, we had 2 problems. The technology was not good enough yet in filtering. We did it with this red plastic and blue plastic, but you got an effect what we call ghosting. What is ghosting? Well, with the red glass, you could still see a little bit of the information that was meant for the other eye. And that's what we call ghosting. And that gives the headache. Also, the fact that in the early days, this 3D projection was done on shaking projectors with print that was damaged with lines. It also ruined the 3D illusion. So people left the theater with a headache. With the introduction of these incredible digital projectors nowadays, and with the introduction of much better filtering techniques, the glasses have become much better. We can finally now create a perfect 3D and without you getting a headache, and you can enjoy it. So now 3D is a very important factor in the cinema, and a lot of the tickets we sell are for 3D movies, and customers are very happy about the experience. Last thing I want to talk about before I get into the Kinepolis Laser Ultra is HFR, high frame rate. You're seeing a still here from the picture, The Hobbit. And I have to explain this a little bit. We have always been watching movies at 24 frames per second. Why? Because in the early days, when you had the first inventors that created film, they discovered, because we think we're watching movement here. Well, we're not watching movement. We have an illusion. We think the image is moving, but it's not. We're showing you a number of pictures at a certain speed, but the pictures, they're not moving. But because we show them at a certain speed, we get an illusion of movement. And this is the language of film. And the early inventors, they were thinking, okay, so we have to show still pictures at a certain speed. At what speed do we buy it? Do we believe that the picture is actually moving? And they did a lot of tests. If they put not too many frames per second, the image was becoming a little stroby and like a stroboscope, and so it wasn't enjoyable to watch, and you could see that the object was jumping. So they did a lot of tests, and they found out 24 frames per second is the ideal speed to create the illusion of movement. They could do more, but of course the print costs money, so why do more? So they made a compromise with 24 frames per second. Now, all of us here in this theater, we are used to watching movies at 24 frames per second. It is a universal language of film storytelling. Is it perfect? No. There is a lot of, I told you it's a compromise. Showing films at 24 frames per second gives us certain side effects. For instance, have you ever noticed when the camera moves, everything is blurry? This is one of the bad things about showing at only 24 frames per second. It's not sharp. So some current directors find we've been doing this for 100 years now. I would like to see when I turn my head, everything is perfectly in focus. This is the real world. Why can't we do that on the screen? One of those people was Peter Jackson. And Peter Jackson said, go to hell, I will not do it in 24 frames per second. I want to do it in 48 frames per second. Double the speed. This will give us a much more realistic experience. Now, it's quite dramatic what he did, because we are used to this way of storytelling. Now, Kinepolis, we've always taken a neutral position in this debate. We offer to our customers, we have equipped certain of our theaters with HFR equipment, and we show The Hobbit in high frame rates. This is a much more realistic experience. Some love it, some don't. Me personally, I am not a too big fan of high frame rates, but it's because I'm accustomed to how I've always looked at film. I like it in that way. But for instance, my son, he's 16-year-old, he's sitting behind his desk, he has 3 computer screens, and he's playing video games that are hyper-realistic. These guys are using frame rates even much higher than 48 frames per second, because he wants to be in his hyper-realistic world. It's his choice. So we don't judge, we give both technologies, and it's up to the customers to decide what they prefer. So in a nutshell, I've now given an overview of all technologies. It's digital sound, digital projection, 3D, we also have HFR. Now we're introducing 2 new things in our Kinepolis Laser Ultra theaters. And maybe let's start with the projection side. We have something up there in the booth, and there's quite a lot of us. We could now all go up and have a look, but hey, we live in a digital world. Let's just hook up a camera to our digital projector, and let's see what's up there in the booth. So we're going to have a look. They're going to put on the camera. And here we are up in the projection booth. This is live. This is our Barco normal projector. It's a very good projector. It's a DLP projector. It contains 3 DLP chips. It contains a xenon bulb, and it's actually working now to create this image. You can see everything now is coming out of this machine. Now I'm going to ask you to turn the camera, and we're going to have a look at a world premiere. There is only 4 of these machines. Oh, and there's Roberto, our chief projectionist. Hi, Roberto. Hola, ¿qué tal, hombre? And we just put him there so you can get an idea of the size. So, and here it is. Here we have a totally revolutionary new projector that consists of, here is the pedestal, we have here the projector itself. Here you can see cooling conducts going to this entire thing here, where we take fresh air, and there's 2 coolers here to cool liquid, to cool our laser that are inside this projector. This is a revolutionary new projector, and you can also see here our Dolby Atmos rack, but I'm going to come back to that later. So, thank you, Roberto, for your acting, and can we now go back to the PowerPoint presentation? So, what's so different? Well, first of all, this projector is no longer a 2K projector, so it's not 2 million little mirrors making this image. It is a 4K projector. So actually it has 8.8 million little mirrors. They have even made it more miniaturized. And so now this image, when we will show you laser footage, it will be like 4 2K images on one screen. So it's 8.8 million pixels. So that's different than this projector, but a very important novelty is the fact we're now watching here a xenon bulb. We as cinema people, we love this thing. This is a lamp containing xenon gas under high pressure. We put a very high current on it, and we give a spark with high voltage, and what happens? The xenon gas lights up and gives a very white, bright light, and we need bright white light to give all the colors, and it has always done a great job. However, it also has its little downfalls. This lamp wears very quickly. To give you an idea, the lamp we're using now to project this image is a 6,500 watts bulb. This bulb only lasts for like 500 hours. And there is something else. This lamp degrades in its light output fairly quickly. So this is important for you as customers being in the theater. It depends on when we change the lamp, on how many light we will have. So it's a good technology, but we're now very happy to introduce laser light. So this new projector that's up there is built by the Belgian projector builder Barco. As you know, there's only like maybe 3 companies in the world producing DLP projectors for the entire cinema business in the world. And Barco is one of them, it's one of the major players, and they developed this new projector containing a multitude of laser devices. So it's not one laser tube, no, there's a whole bunch of red lasers, blue lasers, and green lasers. Their light is all brought together to create a very narrow beam of very intense light. Why laser? Well, there's only advantages. First of all, we finally have a bright image. Let me be honest with you. We are always doing an enormous effort in getting for our customers a great experience. What happens with on these huge screens, we did not have enough light anymore. Not even with this 6.5 kilo lamps. Not in 2D. There's not really enough light when you have a huge screen like this, but especially not in 3D. Because when we're watching 3D, we're putting on sunglasses, literally. So we lose even a lot more of the light by wearing these glasses. Well, laser takes care of this because we have much more light. With a laser projector, we can go up to 2 to 3 times the light we could previously get with xenon projection. We have a better light. The light is spread more uniformly over the screen, so it's a much uniformer light. We have a very much higher contrast ratio, so this gives us the blacks are more blacker, the whites are even more intenser, so it's much more enjoyable to watch. And we have a larger color gamut. This means that this projector can even show colors going further than the spectrum now decided by DCI, the Digital Cinema Initiative. So when we receive digital prints, there is a certain range to where we go with films in color range. Well, this laser projector exceeds this color gamut. So if later films would be made in another way, we could actually show colors we cannot show today. So also that is a very big improvement. We have a longer lifetime, which maybe it's an advantage for the cinema operator, but it's also an advantage for the customer, because as I said, the customer will no longer see at a certain point in time that the light is going down. The light is remaining stable for a much longer time. And for the eco people amongst us, the laser is also giving more light for the same amount of electricity. So the light is more efficient, also an important thing today. So, blah, 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 I have to shut up now and I have to show you these pictures. So, we have a short demo reel for you. Please do not put on the 2D glasses, the 3D glasses. We're going to watch 2D content because first I want to show off with beautiful images. And I'm going to show you images that are images. We're first going to start with a little barcode clip, and then we're going to see a demo reel from Red company. For those who know a little bit about camera technology, Red is of course the company that builds digital cameras. So the images you will see have been filmed in 6K resolution and then rendered out in 4K. So you're going to be able to enjoy this high resolution, 8.8 million pixels. And after the red content will be shown at 24 frames per second. So you will still get a filmic experience, the way I like it. Afterwards, you will see a short clip that was filmed in the nightlife, and which is a clip at 60 frames per second. So it's a high frame rate, so you will get a more realistic feeling. I leave it up to you to judge whether you like that or not. And then finally, we will end the first demo reel with the little clip we had made, which we show in all our other Kinepolis theaters to announce that we have something new. We have the Kinepolis Laser Ultra Theater. So it's a little publicity film. So, up in the booth, please roll the film. 60 frames per second.
La percepción de la imagen láser se une a la excelencia del sonido Dolby Atmos, un auténtico Big Bang de emociones que va a revolucionar para siempre tu experiencia como espectador. Laser Ultra, el sonido más envolvente y la imagen más espectacular por fin en la misma sala. Y será en Kinépolis, ciudad de la imagen. Kinépolis. Reinventamos el cine.
Meter screen. It's a huge screen, and this kind of light, these kind of colors, these kind of blacks is amazing, and it doesn't stop there, because with creating the best possible visual experience, we also wanted to create the best possible audio experience. So we've equipped this theater also with a Dolby Atmos theater. Now, Dolby Atmos is not new. Dolby Atmos has been now on the market for almost a year. And since its introduction, you can see there's already 800 screens being installed. There's already 200 films that have been released in Dolby Atmos, because yes, it's something different, and a film needs to be created especially in Dolby Atmos. I will explain that. And there's already 100 mixing studios over the world that have equipped themselves in Dolby Atmos. So it is surely a technology that is here to stay. Now, the laser projector is a world premiere, but also the fact that we are combining a laser projector with a Dolby Atmos installation is a second world premiere. Now, what is Dolby Atmos? I explained to you earlier that we used to have these 5.1 channels. And basically, when you were creating a mix in the studio, these mixers were doing what they call channel mixing. They were sending the sounds to a certain channel. However, they got frustrated by the fact, now also with all these 3D movies coming out, they wanted to be more immersive in sound. And they wanted to have literally the possibility of creating any sound they want at any spot in the theater. So what Dolby did, Dolby listened to this request, and they developed a completely new way of creating sounds, which is called object mixing. They literally take, a sound mixer will take every single sound effect. For instance, a little bird chirping, and he can now allocate information to that sound to localize it exactly in a specific spot in the theater. So it got X, Y, Z coordinates, and it can say, I want this sound to be heard over there or over there. In order to play out this kind of objects, you need to change the installation in the room. There, where we used to have here, left, center, right, subwoofers for the impact, and the surround speakers were all making exactly the same sound. Well, if you look carefully, some things have changed here. First, there is the size of these surround speakers. They are no longer smaller speakers with a limited frequency range. They are full range speakers capable of giving a whole lot of power and a whole frequency range. Now, another thing is that every single one of these speakers can be addressed individually by the computer. Plus, we've added speakers. There are speakers when it's hard to see with the lights, but you can see here that everywhere here there is new speakers on the ceiling. There are speakers over here on the ceiling. So we also now have channels in the ceiling to create much more spatial sound. But how boring is it to talk about sound? Let's just have a listen ourselves. We're going to show you first a clip of Dolby, which Dolby made, and you will hear the sound and you will see the laser image. Afterwards, you will see a clip that we made to explain to our customers that are sitting in a laser Atmos theater that it's something special. So we explain a little bit to them what it is. Let's have a look and a listen. Ultra, Kinepolis, we can show you 2D content beautifully, Dolby Atmos content beautifully, but also Dolby 7.1, it sounds awesome. 3D, finally, with exactly the colors you want to have. So we're very proud of that, and it's a world premiere. So now I will hand back over to Cristina. I think we're going to do some questions and answers, and we have two distinguished guests from Dolby. We have Ricardo Viñas, who's a sound consultant for Dolby, and for Barco, Belgium, we have Bill Beck, the laser guy. He knows everything about lasers. So, gentlemen, please join us here with Cristina and...
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Bob, por esta magnífica presentación. Entonces, como decía Bob, turno abierto para preguntas, comentarios que queráis hacernos tanto al equipo de Kinépolis como a Dolby y a Barco. Estaremos encantados de contestaros.
¿Necesita una pantalla especial el láser o puede operar con cualquier tipo de pantalla?
Did you get the question, Bill? No. The gentleman is asking if you need a special screen to show the laser images. No.
No. No.
Silver, white.
The Barco system, laser 3D system, works with white screen, silver screen, one gain, high gain. It's a very flexible system.
In this particular screen, we are not using the Dolby 3D, we're using the master image 3D. So the screen here is a special screen. But it's not a gray screen, it is a white version of the gray screen. But you can both work. And low, and Bill will correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but a low gain screen will even be better for the picture result.
This is correct.
Okay. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
¿Quieres el micro?
Sí, micro.